Casual Magic has been brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc., where you can get cool stuff. Use the code CASUAL for 5% off your order. We're also sponsored by Quiver Time, makers of the Quiver and Bolt deck cases and other fine card holding accessories. Use the code CASUAL on their site for 10% off your purchase. And by Architect, a deck hosting website that doesn't sell anything, but they like me and I like them, so kindly use them for all your deck list needs. Now, on to the show. Hello and welcome to Casual Magic, the show where we talk about the fun side of Magic the Gathering. My name is Shivam, Bhatt, and Casual Magic is brought to you by Cool Stuff Inc. and Architect, and we have a brand new sponsor I would be thrilled to announce. I am officially sponsored by Quiver, makers of the official Quiver Time, you know, those cool long card cases that we carry everywhere. I've been a big fan of Quiver for years and years and years, ever since my last show, and I don't know. I talk about them all the time for nothing. And we decided it would be sweet if they became an official sponsor of Casual Magic. I'm super thrilled to welcome them. I'll have all the codes and whatnot in the intro. And also, EK will probably throw it into the show notes. But yes, it's a brand new announcement for Casual Magic, our brand new sponsor, Quiver. They're super cool. I love them. You should love them too. Today, I'm super stoked to have one of my dear friends on the show, but really that's all of the people who are on the show are my dear friends, and that's kind of just Shivam life for you. But Lua Stardust, who has come on to the MTG scene and MTG Twitter scene, I guess like a year or something now, maybe two. And she's like a podcaster and like started the new show Scrybabies and does all these burlesque things and is very small, and we've become friends over the years. Hi Lua, thank you so much for joining me today.
Hi, thank you so much. I am so excited to be here. We've been trying to do this for a bit,
Yeah.
and we came across each other in San Jose recently. We were like, we're going to sit down and do it, and here we are. So
Yeah,
happy to
you
be
know
here.
what? Sometimes you actually just need to sit down and then actually pull out a calendar.
Yeah,
Because like the worst thing in the world is be like, hey, you should come on my thing. Never happens. But if it's like, I've got my phone out, pick a day, and then what are you
yeah,
gonna do?
it's very much that. I'm always like booked like 3 months out, so I'll be like, yes, in 3 months from now, I'm available. So I get it. It's a lot.
Seriously, if not for like this calendar thing, there's no way the show would work. Turns
Yeah,
out my wife is like, hey, you have a family. And that means you don't get to go hide away on the internet for hours every evening.
me with my
Um,
dogs, so I get it.
so how are you doing, my friend?
I'm doing pretty good. Yeah, I just like I said, I was just in San Jose a couple weeks ago where I saw you. I competed uh in a cEDH tournament. You see my dog in the back. I'm so sorry.
That's fine. It's
um
bonus for the video.
yeah. And so I did Silicon Dynasty. I competed, and then right now I'm just focusing on Scrybaby stuff. We have the same very cool editor who takes care of our episodes, EK. So we just got our second episode back, and yeah, I'm just really excited to see where that's going, and I've been focusing on that a lot, honestly.
Sweet.
Mhm.
So I want to talk to you about magic. Surprise, surprise the century. I would like to talk to you about magic, but specifically the fact that you came into my sphere because you like jumped headfirst into cEDH.
Yeah.
It feels like,
Yeah, yeah.
and I noticed like I was looking at Twitter earlier, and it said something like you had only been playing Magic for 2 years.
Yes, 2 years.
How the hell do you go from zero to cEDH?
Well, when you start with Commander, right? Like where else are you gonna go? Um,
Some of us got
I
to Commander and stayed.
No,
They
no,
just
yeah,
stopped.
maybe that's it. I mean, I have like 20 Commander decks, right? So it's been kind of like I try to have everything on every power level, which is not really a thing, right? So,
Yeah, but
um,
you know, you want to fit the table you're at.
yeah. So I try to always bring like a precon, a like a 7, and then like a high power deck, and then a cEDH deck because you just really never know what you're gonna get. Yeah, I started playing with some local friends. I moved to a new city. I didn't have any friends, and I made some playing D&D, and they were like, "We play Magic the Gathering. You would like Commander," and they were right. So 2 years later, here I am doing the thing.
Well, it's funny you say that because Commander to me feels the most like D&D of Magic, right? Like
Yes.
it's a multiplayer game, so we've already got the table full of nerds, and you're telling a story. Your deck is basically your character, right?
Hmm.
Like it's your PC is your commander, and then you've got your deck full of your abilities and your spells and your stats and stuff. And it's like
That's how I
it's
was yeah, to me, that's how it was described. It was like, you get this wizard and this is all their spells, and I was like, "Cool, like, that sounds really fun."
I know how to do that. Let's go.
Yeah, yeah.
What did you start? I mean, you started with Commander
I did. I started playing right before Kaldheim came out. I said that I wanted,
right before Kaldheim. That
yeah,
was
it's
like
really weird.
yesterday.
I know, it feels like yesterday, but also like 30 years because of how many sets have come out, right? And so I started with a Kalia deck, as most women I know do, because I wanted really pretty creatures, and angels are of course beautiful. But I'm also into spooky stuff, so I got to have like demons and dragons, and it was really fun.
Turns out
Uh,
Kalia is literally exactly
yeah.
it's it's amazing. I remember when I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but like
No, you're
I
good.
remember 2011 when the first Commander decks came out because that's when I got into Commander, and like they had put these precons out, and I was looking, I'm like, oh, this one lets me play all my favorite dragons and demons and angels, like,
Mhm.
and just gives them to me for free. It's maybe the perfect Commander, and
Oh,
like the
I love
perfect
that.
intro Commander. Like, it's if you want to get somebody into Magic or somebody into Commander, and you give them a Kalia precon or something, it's like,
I
mind
just
you,
my
it's also broken.
It is broken, and but the thing is, I like broken decks, right? Like my cEDH deck is Winota, broken. I always tell people I play all of Gavin's mistakes, so Yuriko, Edgar, Najila, like everything that like Gavin hates. He's like, oh no, Lou is playing it, right? So I enjoy the broken stuff, but I also enjoy the silly stuff and the jank, right? So I'll play whatever, but I do enjoy
I'm
the
waiting
broken
for your
stuff.
official Glunch deck.
I would do it too. It's cute. I think Lunch is so cute.
It's such an adorable little jellyfish. But yeah, man, Winota's a great deck though. I love
Yeah.
Winota. Like that card, when I first got it and I started building in Brawl and whatever, and then I looked at it in Commander, I'm like, oh, this can get stupid quickly.
Yeah, yeah.
Like,
I was looking at it in Pioneer, woke up that morning, filled my cart with Winotas, and then it got banned that day, and I was like, never mind. So I will stick to my commander format. I just think so Brewer of the List, Comedian MTG, right? Fantastic. I think it's such a powerhouse, yes, but also a really interesting deck for like the meta of cEDH, which is hard to say there's a meta, but there is, right?
there is.
And
For CD8,
so
there absolutely is.
yeah, and so I think it's a really fun deck. I think it's a great intro deck to people who want to go from just casual commander to cEDH, because like Yuriko's, Nagila's, and Winota's are such easy decks to
Yes.
make that transition over. So I love her.
Yeah, actually, that's a really good point because, like,
Mhm.
Winota, because her trigger just goes off on like every creature you have, it's a very straightforward deck, right? Like,
Yes.
you just attack, flip over your deck, and then apply all the stacksy creatures you want and slow them down and just keep hammering till they die.
Yep.
And Najila is like, I could win with Najila and 99 mountains or something, right? Like,
Yeah, you could
she's
really
just
just yeah, she makes enough things off of herself, so it's nice to see.
yeah, it's nice also that the ability to just have a combat deck in CDH where so much of the game is like, okay, well, the stack is 38 deep and we've got 55 Rhystic triggers on this stack and blah.
That's the fun part for me. I love counter wars. Like, even if it's not me, I'll be in the corner like, ooh, ooh. One of my favorite things ever is, oh gosh, I don't believe it. I remember the name. It's either grinding stone or grinding station, something that like makes you mill two cards, and if
Oh
it's the
yeah,
same color,
Grindstone.
okay, grindstone. Bam! At a CDH tournament, somebody played that with another card that made all of my cards white, and so they were
Painter
ready.
Servant.
Yes. Okay. So the
Painter
combo that
Servant Grindstone is like one of the
I
most famous combos in Magic.
listen. I
You've been here
know.
2 years. It's fine. It's fine.
Yeah. I'm still a baby a little bit. So
Did you know
all
that
I
Painter
oh,
Servant was banned for decades because of the Servant Grindstone combo?
well, guess what? It got used against me, and for once, I was like, "This D swap is pretty useful, huh?" And it like I countered it, and then since then, that person has taken it out of their deck, which feels like an accomplishment itself, right? But yeah, like even with that, like I feel like I do so much research on cEDH, on watching videos. There's so many great channels out there, playing with Power, Play to Win, of course, like top fantastic channels. But even with that, there's still so much to learn, and even with that, like the meta is Blue Farm, Winota, like just throwing out examples. Did you see the slicer thing that happened at Silicon Dynasty?
What the hell, dude?
Nobody
I was like,
expected that.
I came home from that thing and everybody's talking about Slicer, and I'm like, the Transformer? Like,
Yeah.
what?
Turns out Transformers and Walking Dead characters are great magic cards, huh? Like it's
But
really
Slicer
impressive.
is like, when
Yeah.
you read Slicer, it's like the goofiest thing in the world.
Mhm.
And okay, I got to get this because people, you might not have Slicer off the top of your head.
No.
Um,
It's
I
just
can't imagine why you would. But here's the deal: Slicer Hired Muscle is the 3/4 with that costs 4 in red, and what it does, it's got double strike and haste. And at the beginning of each opponent's upkeep, you may have that player gain control of Slicer until end of turn. If you do, untap Slicer, goad it, and it can't be sacrificed. If you don't, you can convert it, which is to say, flip it over to the side nobody cares about. Uh, what this does is that you can basically come in, attack somebody for 6 because it's got 3, 4 double strike, right? So it hits you for 6. Then at the beginning of your next player's turn, you give them Slicer and they attack that same person for 6. And then so on and so on. And then the person is dead.
Yeah. I mean,
real quick.
you could be so prepared to see like a certain type of deck there, but I was not prepared to hear about a Slicer that weekend, right? So you
No.
just never know. And that's
Yeah,
the
it's like one
fun
of those
thing about
cards you would
Magic.
look at and just read and be like, okay, whatevs, who cares?
Mm-hmm.
How many decks exist like that, though, that somebody has just been like, this card is totally useless and random, and now I'm going to break it in half, and you're going to be like, I did not see that coming.
Yeah. And I mean, it's good too. Like I talk about this all the time. Like when you're a personality who plays in these tournaments, it's kind of like you get targeted, one, for being that personality.
100%.
And also if you play a really strong commander, like nobody wants to let me cast Winota, right? I'm playing with a playmat that has my face on it as Winota. Nobody's gonna let me cast her, right? So it's
Look, man,
yeah.
even if I didn't know you at all, I still wouldn't let you
No.
cast Winota.
No, not at all. Yeah. So it's definitely interesting.
Yeah, but let's go back a handful of steps for a second.
Yes.
You said you started out as like just a generic commander player. How did you find cEDH?
Yeah, I was playing a lot of casual commander and I was playing on spell table and I was playing at my LGS
Yeah, because like when you started, that was literally the middle of lockdown,
during the
wasn't
pandemic.
it?
Yeah, that was like the only thing I had to do. And like going to an LGS was like how I made my friends and made a community, which was really nice. I started playing and I kept hearing like people at my LGS being like, pop stompy cEDH people, and I was just like, that doesn't seem right. Like there's definitely people, right, that play high power decks at a table that is not equivalent, right?
Mhm.
So I get that, and so I just started researching online, and I'm really good friends with Cal from Playing with Power. We love Cal, and yeah, for a few months we just were grinding out games like every week together, and I learned a lot from him, and I just enjoyed playing at a table where I wasn't worried about salt because, everybody's playing at the same power level. It was really nice.
Say what you will about cEDH, that is the one thing you can guarantee. Nobody at a cEDH
Mhm.
table minds if you crush them or if you
Yeah.
grind them to dust or if whatever, because everybody understands this is what we're here to do.
Mhm.
We all are on the table. All of my strongest cards are here. I'm going to
Mhm.
play the best Magic I can, and then I'm going to try to beat your face in.
Yeah.
And there's no hard feelings because we all know that.
Yeah.
And like,
It's nice.
it's not my cup of tea per se, but I respect that a lot. Like, I
You say
love that.
that. I saw you looking at Kinnan.
Yeah, but that's because I also just like big dumb Simic creatures.
I
Like,
know. I
come
play
on.
Kinnan too. It's such a great deck. Yeah,
It's
it's
such
really
a like
silly.
it looked. I mean, that deck looks so much fun. I mean, okay, so this is one of the wildest things I've ever seen. I'm sitting here, and I'm sitting with Cal's wife, whose name I can't remember.
Jen.
She is lovely, Jen.
Lovely human.
We had a wonderful conversation. So she's sitting at a table with Matt Sperling, who's one of the Pro Tour Hall
Mhm.
of Fame type of like one of the best players of all time type of thing, and he's explaining the combo in her deck to her, and I'm like, first off, well mannered. I appreciate that. Like you're it's rare that you're sitting against somebody and they're telling you how to play your deck so that you can beat them
Yeah.
because that's not a thing that happens, especially when money's online. But it was a really kind thing to do because, side note, one of the things I noticed at Silicon Valley was that there were a lot of people there who had never played in a tournament before.
Yes. A
And
lot.
tournament magic is very different from
Very
LGS
different.
magic. Even
Mhm.
when you're playing cEDH, casual cEDH, which is a thing that exists, casual cEDH at home is basically we're still loosey goosey with rules
Mhm.
sometimes. We still kind of hand wave things. When you're playing a tournament, you're like, okay, well, I draw my card. And then the next player's like, I pass priority, pass priority. I have a Ristic Studies trigger.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you're like, oh, okay, well, I pay the trigger. Now I'm going to play the spell. The spell's on stack. And they're like, okay, well, I pass priority. I have a response to that spell. Okay, well, now there's another
Yep.
Ristic trigger. And you have to go through the
It's a lot
whole
to follow.
rigmarole. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a
Like,
lot to follow and it's high pressure and high stakes, but I go in there like no mercy in this dojo, Cobra Kai, ready to go. Like, but what I will say though is I think it's amazing how much politicking still happens and conversations still happen, and just good communication. Like, I had an incident at Oktoberfest with a very viral picture of me crying at a table, and even then, even though I had a very emotionally taxing game, each of the men that I played with after came up to me after the game, talked about the game with me, and just made sure I was okay, which is not something you would think would happen in a space like that. That's very, very male dominated as well. So yeah, the community you would think is maybe just big scary pub stompers, right? But there's some really fantastic people that I've met through playing it.
Yeah, I mean, I will say crap. I'll talk crap about cEDH all day long, but the community has been actually wonderful, and they've
Yeah.
been really kind to me, and they've been really lovely, even though they have no reason to be. So, it's like that. I can't fault them. It's been wonderful to interact with these folks. But like I was saying, so I'm watching this Kinnan deck, and it just like it got real stupid, and I was like, I I like what I'm seeing.
Yeah.
I'm gonna like down tune it a smidge so I can play it at normal tables, but I like to have one high powered deck that I can just sit down with because
Yeah.
it's important. Like my whole shtick is I play lower or sillier power decks, whatever. But I also like to play powerful decks because I play
Mhm.
Magic. I want to play dumb things. Like we all want to
Mhm.
play dumb things, right? But it's good to just always be prepared. Like my saying is, commander players don't walk with a deck; they walk with the table.
Yeah.
As in, you've got like 38 decks with you. I'll sit down with anyone, and I want to be able to play with everyone. That's why
Yeah.
I've got like high power decks and low power decks and precons, whatever. Right? I mean, it just seems to be the smart thing to do.
Mhm.
Um, and at least it's more welcoming that way. So, what was your experience like at coming to San Jose and playing this tournament? You've done like cEDH tournaments before, right?
This was just my second one. I'm trying to do like every
I feel
Eminence
like
event this
that
year.
there've only been like a handful of cEDH
Yeah.
tournaments like
Well,
ever.
Monarch runs them, Eminence does them, and there's a few other like online ones. I know Playing with Power's doing the Mox Masters online too. But I just really, I don't know. I went into my first tournament in November, like just trying to go for the experience because I'm only used to the LGS or, online experience, and I wanted to see it for myself. And it was really, really hard. One, it's really hard being one of six women
Right?
playing, right?
Yeah.
So that's hard. And then again, I cried, so it was hard being the woman who cried at the cEDH tournament. But the second go around, like I was probably playing the sharpest Magic I've ever played. I was playing the smartest Magic, the most reactive Magic, especially with a Boros deck that doesn't do much reaction, right? And so, um, I think with what I was given, I did very well. I got, I think, 1-3-1, right? Three, four,
You
five.
got a win?
I
That's
got
impressive.
I got a win, and I misplayed where I should have had 2 wins because of a dumb thing, right? So I knew I could have had that second win, if not a third. And so no, that's just the thing you learn
Yeah,
from
that's
next
no
time.
the one thing about like cEDH tournaments when you talk to people about their stats, and it's like there's 4 people in the pod, one person's gonna win and the other 3 are going to lose.
It's hard.
And that means that there's gonna be a whole lot of people who are like, "Yeah, man, I went 1 and 7." And I'm like, "Ow?" It's like,
Yeah.
well, I mean, 25% of the people, like 75% of the people are gonna lose a lot of matches
It's
just
really,
because
really hard because
it's
you
weird.
get the 6 rounds, right, before, the top 16, and I wish you were there to see the top 16 stuff because it was the most intense Magic play stuff I've ever seen. It was very, very cool. But with that, it's like you have the pressure of, like, playing well, performing well. You have the pressure of people because they kinda just let people look at you playing your game, so you have all these people going around on
I
top
mean,
of it.
that's how tournaments work.
Yeah,
As
and it's
long as they're
just
quiet and they're not, like,
yeah.
cheating, then what
No, then it's fine, right? But
railbirds.
it's that added pressure. I made, Ian was around me for the Oktoberfest. I made him turn around so he didn't see what I picked for my Winota triggers because I was like, I don't want him to know, and if I misplayed it, I don't want anybody to know it, right? But it's just really interesting how, like, the community supports each other in that way and will tune into the games, and they're supportive. You don't really hear people, being negative, of course, which is the nice part, but it does happen sometimes, so
Alright, so I have a question for you.
yes.
You had mentioned earlier politicking, and
Yes.
this is a thing that I, take very deep interest in because one of the big things about Commander is that it is a multiplayer game, and that means there's a lot of table talk, and there's a lot of back and forth and a lot of negotiation going on about like, "Oh, you should target them with that disenchant, or you should target this thing with the disenchant," or, like, everybody wants to have everybody's got, like, a best play in mind. Everybody's
Mhm.
got this is the biggest target, and, "Oh, your danger assessment is totally off," or whatever it is.
Mhm.
And when you're sitting around at home and you're playing Commander, NBD, we're just talking and we're just telling each other. When there's money on the line and everybody's got an incentive to want to either lie or encourage you to do a bad play so that's advantageous to them. How do you what do you think of the nature of politics in tournament play?
I'm so bad at lying. Like, my players will know I'm lying. There was a game we actually played where, we got kind of, like, all stressed out with our hands, and we had, like, an op age announced so nobody could play their fetches, and everybody's hands were full of fetches, and we all showed each other our hands to be like, "Listen, I'm not lying to you, like, I only have fetches, like, let me play this thing so we could beat this person," which is, like, not always the case, right? And so I think there is a lot of people who do lie, and for them, it's whatever it takes to get the money, right? I will always notice if you were the person that does it, if you do it in a bad way, I will notice that, and if I see you get in a tournament, I'm gonna be like, "That guy lies." Like, I'm gonna be like, "That person, don't trust them." But it's very hard to make the argument on why you should let me keep my Winota because I'm the only person that could stop them without sounding like I'm trying to win the game. Like, yes, I'm trying to win the game, but I'm also trying to make it so that they can't win, so we have the
Mhm.
chance, right?
Yeah.
Um, and that's also, like, the conversation with, like, forced draws too, because they want that 1 point more than a loss, and so that's another conversation that comes up with politicking, quite a bit at the
Oh,
table.
man. The thing about draws and stuff, though, is that's a different kind of politicking. That's an
Mhm.
outside of the game politicking, and that
Mhm.
that stuff bugs me a lot. Like,
It does bug
inside
me
the
too.
game, if you guys are sitting there and you're like, if I play Force of Vigor and there's 2 things I need to blow up, and you guys are trying to encourage me to nuke this thing instead of that thing, fine. That's in-game politicking. I can
Mhm.
deal with that. I'm okay with that. If it's like, "Hey, we both need to lose so that I can get so that we can get a point to get to the thing," I'm like, I don't like that because that feels like it's impugning on the integrity of the game,
Yeah, that
right? Like,
was a conversation I never thought I was gonna have at a table, and I did the first tournament I went to, and I wasn't expecting it, so I didn't, again, not to be like a woman right now and be like I was the only woman there, but it definitely felt like 3 men were like, "Okay, let's get the girl out, like, don't let her win," and I was just like, "Well, can you just beat me instead?" Right? Like, instead of forcing this draw. Yeah, so
yeah.
it's interesting.
So I would like to pivot for a second onto that
Yes.
point that you just made there. You've been here for 2 years, and
Mhm.
before that, and probably still, you've been playing a lot of D&D as well, and so
Yes.
you've been in nerd spaces for a long, 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 long time. And that means you've dealt with a lot of the things that we end up with. It's like a lot of sexism, a lot of racism, and especially in tournaments, you get a lot of weird, like people trying to leer or trying to just showboat and scare, like intimidate you, right?
Mhm.
And it's gross and off-putting and very disgusting. Um, but my question, what has it been like for you? Like, you've been going to LGSs, you've been playing, and now that we're starting to move out of the pandemic sphere and into like cons and things like that, have you noticed a lot of this, or have you noticed it getting worse or better the more you get known in the community?
It's I'm biased, right? Because
Yeah,
if people know me and they feel good about it, they're gonna be nice to me, right? But that doesn't mean that a woman at another table is gonna get the same treatment.
sure, of
So
course.
that's like a kind of hard realization. I think it definitely has gotten better. I think I use my voice quite a bit to make sure that those spaces get better. I've talked to events on how they could be more inclusive to women. I've even reached out to women and non-binary players that want to compete or go to these tournaments that I'll comp their badge or comp their entry fee so that they can have that experience because it's not always the most welcoming spaces for us. Um,
No.
yeah, and so, that was also a thing with my old LGS where I was very prominent in trying to bring women in, and I brought all of my female friends to learn to play Commander there, and that was something that was important to me as well. I think it's kind of like you have to force yourself in those spaces, as bad as it sounds, and like not infiltrate, but like bring them into the.
Weirdly enough, the word I'm thinking here is colonize.
Oh, sweet, all right. Something we're
Well, I mean, it is, right? You're bringing boats full of people. Like, look,
yeah.
if you want the scene that you're a part of to look more diverse and to be more like friendly and open, part of it is convincing the hearts and minds of the folks that are there, but the other part of it is just making sure you have enough of a quorum of people who are with you to change
Mhm.
the balance, right? Like, that's how we
Yes.
win elections. That's how we win. When you're playing like strategy games, you got to overwhelm the opponent,
Yeah.
and when you have the majority, then you can make affect change. Um, and I think it's like that's why it's so important. I think that for folks like you and me to be here, to be like prominent, to be actually talking and making these spaces, because then we're giving a wider audience of people the awareness that it's okay to be here,
Mhm.
and that if we're here and they're here and they bring their friends, then we can change the whole atmosphere of what's going on.
Yeah, I think that was like for not Oktoberfest, I'm sorry, for Silicon Dynasty. I helped Z. We both know Z, EDH Cafe.
My dear friend.
Yes, practice with their Winota deck and get started with that. And I help them kind of like not like coach, but like give some advice to make them feel more comfortable with their first time playing. Shauna and Alana, fantastic women in the scene that are just absolutely crushing it. Really, really amazing players. And so getting to like look over them, I feel so inspired, but also like yes, I'm competing for me and like what I want to do, but I also want to be able to inspire other women to get out there and do that. Even if it's not like
Exactly.
competitive CDH, just putting yourself out there. And that's
Yeah.
also a big thing for Scrybabies too, is like showcasing diversity and inclusion amongst the US, because I feel like a lot of the commander shows look really similar and the
Or
same.
white
And
guys and then Mike.
you said it, not me, because I was about to, and I wanted to make sure it was okay first.
Look,
yes.
just because every commander show looks exactly like every podcast did in
Yep.
the early 2000s.
Yep. Don't get me wrong. I love white men, right? Like I get it, but it's very like saturated in that. And so for me, like showcasing a show with two women was important, as well as getting diverse guests and showcasing how amazing they are as players.
Look, not gonna lie, part of why I started doing video for this is because I realized it's important for me to show my face.
Mm-hmm.
It's important for me to be like here and be me, so that you can see that I'm here and carving a space for myself, And so let's talk about Scrybabies. You started this show and you've launched like one episode. I think you taped it with Jim and friends up in Canada. What's going on? What is this?
Yeah. So Scrybabies is myself and Tori the Vast. You might know her from TikTok. She's the blonde girl that makes the really funny stuff. We have been friends
I'm too old for TikTok.
Oh, well, some other people, your viewers might know her, but she's great. We've been friends like since I started playing Magic. She was one of the first people that kind of reached out to me. And over the summer, we've been talking about doing a show together for a while, but over the summer we were like, all right, this is happening. We're doing it. Like, let's make moves. So it was very fast. Like we started really initially planning in August, and like it was a very fast, like paced thing to get here. We've got a lot of pre-recorded stuff. We're doing cEDH and EDH, but as well as hopefully in February or March, you'll start seeing 1v1 content that we're also filming,
Nice.
as well as maybe some sit-down videos. We want to do interviews with people as well. I just think there's...
Wow, you're building a whole ecosystem.
I just think there's so many amazing people out there that I want to showcase, and if I could do that, I would love to do that, right? So that's our whole focus is we want to travel to different LGSs and showcase those as well, because obviously that's important to support your local game store, right? And yeah, she's just a great person to play Magic with, and I'm really excited that I get to do it with her.
That's rad.
Yeah.
Like I was very happy to see this because you're right. The scene is really uniform in terms of content generation. Now, we should be clear, though, like, obviously, the first and foremost and biggest of us is Josh and Jimmy on the Command Zone.
Of course.
And by God, they're the most diverse crew there is.
And then, of course, team as well that is on there. Like, it's very diverse.
And then, of course, our boy Joe, who we both love.
We love Joe.
And he's creating his own, like, completely... Like, it's wild because it's showing the fact that there are Black people who play Magic.
Yeah.
What? Holy crap. And it's not just Cedric, but Cedric is also amazing.
Oh, we love Cedric.
We love us a Cedric. I don't know. It's so warming to me, having been in this for a long time, to see in the past, like, let's say 3-5 years, suddenly this whole huge explosion of like diversity in Magic, of like gender diversity, of racial diversity, of cultural diversity, of like, trans people, women, all just this whole like explosion of things that when I was a kid was not like, I was the one brown guy playing Magic.
Yeah.
That's like kind of it.
But it's also in our cards now, right? Like, again, I've only been playing 2 years, but we have trans representation. We have non-binary folks. We have one of my favorite things that I talk about often is the Gala Graders promos, how every country got like a different type of thing.
That was sweet.
Right? And I feel like that's like such a great way to be inclusive to this game. And those are like, it looks like a small thing, but it's a really big thing when you think about it. And I just think it's a good initiative to take.
It's all of these very easy gestures you can make to make the game more welcoming to everybody. And we've come a long way since like women representation in Magic was Sarah Angel and then the poor chick in Earthbind getting Shibari to death.
Listen, nobody's complaining about that one, okay? Maybe Wizards, but that's okay.
Nobody is complaining about that. Yep. That is a fact. But like, there's still ways to go, but it's important to celebrate how far we've come, because
Yes.
I think Magic has done such great job pivoting from where it was.
Hmm.
And like, it's not, I mean, like, look, I'm not saying it's great, but I'm also saying that y'all don't know how bad it was.
Hmm.
um Earthmind is that art was distracting to me when I was a kid, and it has yet to remain. It remains pretty
Listen,
wild.
they say Magic is a kid's game, and then I see the Booby Ponder, I see Earthbind, I see the one with all the leashes. Like they ain't fooling nobody.
Uh, these guys know what they're doing. They very much. I mean, look, there was a whole lot of dong in in the early days of Magic. They just happen to look like worms or something.
Yep.
You're like, what is going on? Like, there's a whole like category on Scryfall of just like accidental wang,
Yeah. There is.
and I'm like, what are you doing,
There's
artists?
definitely
Please,
decks that are like dudes without shirts, or like, you know what I mean? There's something for everything, and there's
yeah,
a
God
lot
bless.
of that. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Um, Sorry, I did not mean to go into that weird direction.
It's because you're here with me. It's all right.
Yeah. Um, your hair looks lovely today.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
so I guess we have like that's also like the other thing you do is like you go and do like burlesque shows and adulty
Mhm.
type things. Has that been like has that been weird for you to be like doing this, playing Magic in person, and then also like doing the like OnlyFansy type things, and then like because that's gotta be weird when you meet people.
It's a little bit of both, right? So I've been doing this for a decade. I've been doing alternative modeling and cosplay. That's how I got started,
Mm.
and that's why when people are like, "How'd you get this many followers from Magic?" I'm like, "It's not from Magic.
Oh,
like
it's not for
it
Magic.
is now. Like a lot of it, I would say like a good half of my Twitter following is Magic based, and you could see that from like recent posts, right? But yeah, I mean, it's fun because sometimes people will watch me on like a normal channel and be like, "I didn't know you had content. Now I'm here to support you in that way," which is cool. But it's definitely like a degree of separation. Like I never want to mix Magic with that. I really would like Wizards to acknowledge me, and so I will never mix the two things. And it's something I'm not comfortable doing.
That is a thing
Yeah.
we're not gonna talk about.
Yep. 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 So I'm gonna do. Yeah. My thing is, I'm not interested in ever doing that, but
Yeah.
people in the Magic community are usually pretty good about it. I would like to continue to do that as long as I can, right? And I think it's fun. I think it's a fun way of like celebrating the feminine body, and I
I mean,
quite enjoy that.
I'm not here to judge. It's like
Yeah,
I think it's cool, it's fine.
yeah,
But it's also like people would have been like, "You had Lua on and you didn't talk about it." I'm like, "Okay, I did."
yeah.
No,
Now
stop.
it's done. All right, we're
Yeah, we're good.
good.
No, because I'm still tripping about the fact that you've only been playing for 2 years and then you went
Yep.
straight to cEDH and then straight to
Hmm.
cEDH tournaments.
Yep.
That's like bananagrams. Okay, then what do you play when you're not playing crunchy Winota to the face?
Nira and
Okay, well,
Lavril.
I can't lie. I love me a Nira.
I know. I know. There's a Nira CDH deck. But yeah, I do.
What?
Yeah,
How? But Nira
Displacer
would be
Kitten. Now you're like, all right, I see where it's at. Mm-hmm. It's good.
Displace her kitten. All
Mm-hmm.
right,
It's good.
fine.
You're in. No, but I mean I really liked theme decks. So I have elves, and I have, vampires, and I have all that. So I have like a full ooze one because I was like, I want to use this Wizard of the Barge art. And so I really try to just play things that make me happy. I have my Rule Zero little freaking My Little Pony deck, the Rule Zero deck that I'm doing, because I'm like, I saw Rachel Weeks do it. One, two, I love My Little Pony, and I'm thriving, and I just want to make cute horses. So anything that just
Her
makes me
ponies
smile.
deck is nutty,
I
by the
know,
way.
it's so good. So I think Rachel. We're talking about Rachel now. I think Rachel's probably one of the most like inspiring people to Magic, like in Magic for me. Like I think she brews decks in a very fun way, and she's very charismatic. My first time meeting her was when she was playing her Feldergraph deck and had like little mini hippos, and I was like,
Mhm.
man, I just want to make people this happy when I play Magic with them. So
Rachel is one of the most brilliant people I've ever met
yes,
in Magic. She's a
yeah,
genius. She is incredibly smart, incredibly witty and erudite. And like when they brought her onto the CAG, I was like, "Who is this?" And then I sat and studied her work, and I'm like, "Oh, she knows a
yeah,
ton. She understands like not only the game. Forget the game. We all understand the game, but she understands the personality and the psychology of people
yes.
playing the game at a level that a lot of people just don't."
Yeah.
And like I would not have been surprised if they'd uplifted her to the RC like immediately. Not to
Mhm.
say that Olivia and Jim aren't like already amazing,
No,
but
but
like
she's my
but
vote
Weeks is
always.
like
Yeah.
hella smart.
I'm very happy to see that she's on, like, the command zone
Yeah,
now.
getting her
Yeah.
on the command zone is putting
Smartest
her in front
decision.
of that audience is such a good idea.
Mhm.
She is so I mean, her show was so good.
Yeah.
Like Command Sphere was such a good show, and so like getting her on the command zone is genius.
Yeah.
Um, who are your favorite people to play with?
I mentioned Cal earlier. Cal's always a
Cal's
good person,
lovely. He was
comfortable
on the show. We
person.
talked about GameCubes.
Yeah, he
Surprise his
really
sister.
likes those game cubes. I really enjoy. I honestly, there's so many like amazing women, so I love playing with them. I play with Tori very often, obviously. Ian, Charles, like
Oh wait, you got to go onto a prof show, didn't you?
I did, I
Okay.
played Popper.
Yeah, so actually I wanted to ask you about that because that triggered something in my head. Like you were playing Popper against Andrea Mengucci.
Okay, so for context, Prof was like, "Hey, we should do a thing," and I said, "Yes." He said, "Do you play anything else besides Commander?" And I said, "Actually, I play a little bit of Popper. I play Bogles. Like, I don't play. I like my little cute
You're
Bogle.
like, I played Popper
Yeah,
once at a store once.
yeah, and I enjoy playing it, right? But I wasn't expecting to be like with Andrea Mengucci,
Yeah,
and
against one of the
so
greatest like like Popper players in the world slash Magic
yeah.
players in the world.
So my schedule wasn't as flexible, and then he was like, "You're gonna play with Andrea Mengucci." I was like, "It is now flexible. I will play this
Turns
game
out
of Magic." Yep, yep.
turns out
And
I have all
so
the time in the world suddenly.
yeah, Andrea was quite fantastic though, like a person that really made you feel like you knew him for years and very comfortable to play with. After he
He's the
was
genuine sweetheart.
so smart, so good to play with. Our games were really fun. After he was like, "You're gonna play modern now. You have to play 60 card," and then I made him play my cEDH decks, and he was like, just like it was
He
really interesting.
Until I had met him, I didn't think there was anybody who loved Magic the way I love it, which is just
Mhm.
for the love of the game. Like, he's like, "Yeah, I have no other hobbies. I'm a lawyer by training, and I just wanna play cards." And I'm like, "God bless you, man. You have made the life, and you live in Italy, and you eat food all day, and you have a good time, and
I know,
cube." I'm like, "What is this?" Like, it's La
living the
Vida
dream.
Dolce over here, this psycho. It's, like, just such a sweetheart.
Yeah,
And, like
it was definitely nerve-wracking to play against him, right?
oh,
Because it's
yeah,
a
I
pro.
would never wanna sit on the other side of a table from him. Are you kidding?
No, and then again, like, respectfully, like, a woman, right? So I'm like, "I don't wanna go to a prof show and look like a dumb lady playing my Boros bully," and, like, luckily I didn't have to play against him, I just got to, spectate and make comments, which was great for me, but I really enjoyed that, and,
I
I've
think Mango would have made you feel comfortable even
Oh,
if you were
yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
thrust,
he made
like
me feel, like, comfortable in
because
every
he's like
aspect.
he's a gentleman's gentleman, that guy.
Yes. Yeah,
Yeah.
and I
And
do
Prof
it
is lovely. He's, like,
yeah.
obviously one of my best friends, so it's like
Yeah,
it's
we met quite a while ago, so it was nice getting to do that together finally, so
yeah, like, I love that show he does. I love that house he's got, and it was so cool to see you on there. It made me very happy.
Oh, thank you.
But
I
also,
watched your episodes.
I was like, "Oh, no, she's playing Popper against Mangucci."
Yeah.
GG's.
Yeah, I felt equipped enough, like, I got my practice in, and I was like, "Alright, I could do this." I think I would've been fine and held my own, right? But,
Yeah, I mean, it's
it's all
Magic.
great.
You know how to play Magic. It's not that
Yeah,
hard.
yeah.
I mean, there's some people you play against where you're like, "Oh, I'm just gonna lose this game badly."
Yeah.
And then there's sometimes you're like, "You know what? It's just Magic. We all know how to play Magic, whatever."
Mhm.
Like, the person on the other side of the table can be whoever it wants to be. I know how to play my cards.
Yeah.
But it's like when you don't know how to play your cards and then you're sitting did I ever tell you about the first time I went drafting?
No.
I went, to I was, when I got into Magic for the second time in 2011, and I was unemployed, and I went to Worlds because it was
Mhm.
here in San Francisco, and I was like, "Oh, I'll go to Worlds, it's here, I've got nothing to do on a Wednesday, and drafts are $5. I've never drafted before, it should be fine." Do you know who drafts on Wednesday at 5 at Worlds? It's not just like your LGS. It happens to be the national team of Finland, or like the national team of Costa Rica, or like a bunch of Hall of Famers who are waiting for their eventifier. And when you're sitting down and like dude drafting next to you's got his Hall of Fame ring on, and you're like, I've never seen these cards before.
I will make
I
this
don't know
deck
what a
work.
planeswalker
Yeah.
is.
I do love draft though. I love draft. I love sealed. I really like curating the decks, but I could not imagine that situation. That is a very funny story.
It's a dude, I nearly walked out of Magic Forever until like I was getting thrashed by the champion, the Magic Online champion that year.
Oh my
And then
gosh.
after our game, he said, "Oh, okay, hang on." And I was like, "Man, I'm just quit. I suck at this." And he's like, "No, no, no. Let's look at your deck." And he stopped and he showed me how to build my deck and taught me how to draft and how to like actually build a sealed pool. And I was like, thank you so much. It was Reed Duke, of course. Well,
No big
why wouldn't
deal.
it be? NBD, just like the literal champion that year, taking time out to show me after he thrashed me up and down the street. He's
Well,
like, okay,
that's
now let me teach you how to play.
I don't know who anybody like. I'm so sorry, no disrespect, but like I don't know who anybody is, right? Because
So
I don't.
you're
That's
so
not my
young.
world,
You're so
right?
new.
And so like I was playing on Spell Table with Matt Sperling one day. I'm like, I don't know who this guy is, and everybody's like, excuse me, like that's a person, and I'm like, oh, okay, cool, cool, cool. And then like it's all these names will come up, and I'm like, oh, nice to meet you. Didn't know you were doing cool stuff. That's nice. Like
Yeah, seriously.
it's
No,
nice.
I mean, but there's a time when you sit, then you get into like after a couple of years worth of like actually being in the game and learning the names and stuff, and then you're like, oh, that guy's really, really good.
Yeah.
And but I mean, even if you don't know them, sometimes you can just like I didn't know who any of these people were, except I was playing a game against a Japanese team, and I was just like, I speak Japanese, so I was just having fun banter with them. And then one of the guys like, oh, excuse me, I have to get up, and I'm like, oh, okay, I'm sorry. Did I do something? He's like, oh no, I got to go get my Hall of Fame ring. They're having the ceremony right now. I'm like,
You're like, I gotta get
oh,
my sandwich. Gotta use the bathroom.
um, okay,
Yeah.
congratulations.
Very cool.
And he goes up in his kimono and gets his Hall of Fame ring, and I'm like, oh, I just got thrashed by literally the king of magic.
Yeah, I mean that's pretty nice, right? That's a experience for
I have
sure.
I have lost to the best players in the world.
That's good.
I've also lost to everybody because
I've
I've
also lost to some people who are.
some people who really ought to not have
Yep.
been losses to. Um,
Yep.
yeah, man, I don't know. It's just this game is weird.
Hmm.
So what kept you in Magic?
Oh man, I'm gonna be the
Because
cheesy
like it's easy to
person.
be like, oh yeah, my friends are playing the LGS, but that's not going to bring you back next week.
No, I mean, and especially since I moved, right? Like I don't really have the LGS experience that I had back at home, and that's like something I miss a lot. Um, I would like to say it's the gathering. I really like doing. I know it's cheesy. That's part of the name. We get it, right?
Look,
But
we're a community. We like this, right?
it's a
Like,
good community, and so like yes, we get the hot takes on Twitter. Yes, it could be a little bit whatever, but like not all the community is on Twitter, right? So you get to go to a Magic 30, a Magic
I
Philly,
wish people would understand that.
yeah, it's a really important thing. There's people even who just are on YouTube that don't know anything about Magic Twitter or anything else, right? And
Isn't that
so
weird?
it's crazy to think about because it's like I'm on there all day, and so a lot of stuff happens for sure. But I think it's really just like curating a good space, wanting to create stuff for people that I think is important and valuable to see, and I am so honored that I've gotten to be on like this show, Prof Show, Joe's show, and EDH hydrants, like spaces that are just good for the community. And I'm very grateful that I got to do that. So that's kind of what
I'm
keeps me up.
really glad that we've actually started having more actively interesting and welcoming spaces
Hmm.
that let people have I mean, that allow people to come into the spotlight and that allow people to share and explore and experience the game.
Hmm.
And like for instance, like you, like I had you on my show because I'm like, you are super interesting, and I think more people would be really like fascinated to learn who you are. And that's like one of the things. Like, I think I was reading with Joe, who was posting earlier today. Like, there's a problem that we have as content creators, which is when we try to bring new faces on, our numbers drop,
Yes,
right?
and it's
Like,
hard.
and it's hard because like your audience is like, look, I want to have the name that I know come on, and I want to hear about them. And I'm like, sure, but I also want you to. I want to create new names for you to know,
Hmm.
right? Like, so this is going to be kind of the most name droppy thing I've ever done on this show, which is already super indulgent. But I'm a Metallica super fan,
Mm.
and um, when their album came out a few years ago for Death Magnetic, my wife and I got to go to their studio, which is in North San Francisco, and we got to go to their album launch party because I'm part of the fan group. I won a contest, whatever, and so I got to hang out the afternoon with Metallica, and we're chilling and we're talking, and I was talking to Lars Ulrich, the drummer, about like, yeah, I'm like, why don't you play these awesome, cool songs? Why do you keep playing all these new weirdo songs? He's like, look, want to play your favorite songs, but I also want these new songs to have the chance to become your favorite songs. So I
Oh
want to
yeah.
keep playing them until you can understand them and like them as much as we do. And I took that to heart, and I'm like, when we're making content for Magic and stuff, yeah, I want to bring on the Reed Dukes and the professors and the Olivias and all the big famous people that you want to talk to. Of course I do. Like, I've had this show so I can talk to people, but I also want to bring people like you on because I want other people to think you're as cool as I do.
Yeah.
And like, that is super important to me to make sure that we have such a big draw. And that's why I'm super excited to see things like Scrybabies, because I'm like, look, there's going to be another platform for people to see cool people that they wouldn't otherwise have a chance to see.
Yeah.
And
It's
that's also,
also
yeah,
it's
go
also
ahead.
been very successful too. Like our first episode drop, we have less than 2,000 subs. We hit about 10K the first day that it dropped, right? Which is like huge
That's
for, I
more than
think.
my YouTube.
Yeah, yeah. And so I think it's something that people want to see. Our next episodes, we have, women of color, we have men of color, we have just like
People always
it's
forget the men of color. Like,
yes, they
let's be
do.
honest,
Yeah.
I'm feeling a little ignored in
Yeah.
this space. Thank
We
you.
need you in the space. Come play on our show. You know what I mean? So I think it's really important to just like showcase the good players that are in our community, even if it's not like. And I think people forget too that a lot of this is very West Coast based, right? So all the cool people get to hang out together, but like they forget the Midwest and the East Coast, and like I want to showcase that.
Hang on a second.
Yeah,
The West Coast is a very large place, and we don't
yeah.
get to hang out. Like, everybody's in LA,
But
but
I see
nobody's coming up to
you.
San Francisco.
That's true. Well, I did, but that was for a very specific reason. But I think it's, maybe you don't all get to hang out, but I do get to watch your videos of you playing together, right? And so, I love
Fair.
that, and I want to have all of those people on my show because I love them, right? But also, there's not enough of the people on our East Coast, so I'm happy to showcase that if I can.
Yeah, well, I mean, that's why I want Rebel to succeed. 'Cause I want
Yes,
Rebel's show to be like the best thing because she gets the coolest people, and also Rebel's like one of my favorite people. So
Rebel. Not to gush about another amazing person, right? Rebel's content on Title is probably like, and I know it comes off like a little biased because we're friends, and a little biased because I enjoy the people that are in it. But I think it's such a unique way of showcasing Magic, and it makes you feel like you're at the table. I enjoy that. I also enjoy all of her other recent content. It's so good, but
I am number one Rebel stan. So you're not going
Mhm,
to find any any disagreement here.
mhm.
Um, yeah, man. What do you think about? Okay, so you've been here since call time. So
Mhm.
you were here right in the middle of when content flood was just pouring out. As a
I
news
guess.
player, as a newer player, what do you think about the fact that like every 3 days we have another set?
I mean, I love and like it's like a bittersweet. Like I love and I hate it, right? Like I would like to get a moment to chill and enjoy a set.
Hmm.
But also I appreciate all the new cards that are coming out. However, I will not remember any of them because of how quickly they're coming out, right? For me, I think the best set of the year was Neon Dynasty, and like that feels like it was a decade ago, right?
Neon Dynasty is not just the best set of the year. Neon Dynasty is one of the best sets of all time.
Yeah, I think it's very, very good. And I feel like, yes, we got our time with it, but there was just so much other stuff that came out that when I was watching like the Command Zone, like review the sets of the year, I was like, I don't even remember half this stuff. Like, I don't even remember when it came
It's
out.
my job to remember, and I'm still like,
Yeah.
that was this
And I've played
year.
sealed for almost every set that's come out too. So like,
Do you play Arena?
no, I mean, maybe one day, but it's not my cup of tea. I don't know. I need the physical. I like to feel the cards and
Sure,
to
sure.
smell the cards and all that stuff, right? So
What has been the most challenging part about learning Magic for you?
remembering stuff and math. I'm not great at math. I picked the game where you had
So
to
you
read
pick
everything
cEDH.
and math, right? So it's not great. I think that's been the hardest, and just keeping up with new stuff. Like I feel like a boomer, and I know I've only been playing for 2 years, but I feel like the Magic boomer. Right? I'm like I can't keep up with these kids and their new cards. But yeah, I think that's
I have lands that are like 25 years old.
yeah, I believe it.
It's like every time Chase comes on the show, I'm like, Chase, you are younger than my draft deck.
Well, lots of room for all types of new
Yeah.
faces, right? It's
You
a
know
good thing.
what though? It's still like I gotta say though, I'm really glad to have you in the community. I think you're doing amazing things. I like all of your content, and I'm glad you were able to come on today. It's been really great to talk to you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. I really enjoyed this, and maybe one day you can be on my show.
Yeah,
Sounds
I
cool.
mean, if not for the fact you live on the other side of the world, then I would
We'll get
totally
there.
do it. Um, but if people wanted to find you, find your things, and find your show, where could they go?
You can go to luastardust.com to find all the ways to find me. I have a cool podcast called Camp Cryptid if you're into
Oh, we
spooky
didn't even
lore
talk
stuff.
about that.
That's totally okay. But you know what? If you're like into little spooky things like cryptids and horror and all that fun stuff, you can check that out. And then my show Scrybabies is on YouTube. You can just search Scrybabies MTG and check that out.
What is your release schedule like for that?
We're currently bi-weekly because we don't have any money, and so we're on a current. Yeah. It's producing a show is very expensive. So we're bi-weekly. We're hoping with the continued support that we've been getting, which has been amazing, that we can pump out a third video a month, starting in February or March. So maybe you'll see some more episodes then.
Sweet.
Yeah.
And as always, my friends, you can find me at Gear Reporting Gears. You can find this show and at Cool Stuff Inc. every Tuesday and at YouTube every Thursday. Thank you to my producer, EK. And remember, my friends, it is not magic without the gathering, and we will see you next time.